So helpful? Did we get to where you...
Yes. And I have one more question.
Yes?
As far as the allowing part, Byron Katie, who created the process called The Work, and it's in my experience with her, she appears to be one of the most allowing people I've encountered, and yet she has a degenerative eye disease. In her book, she mentioned it and said she's so allowing of all that is that she even, like the thought that she may go blind, does not sadden her. It does not bring, like, I would think, okay, we have contrast and we have a preference. I would want to know that I could be healed if that were me. But she's like totally allowing and accepting of whatever comes, even going blind.
In the beginning, as we said to you, it's a 3-step process. Step 1 is ask, step 2 is source answers, and step 3 is allow. And a lot of people took that to mean allow or tolerate. In other words, just accept whatever's happening. But we are specifying with so much more clarity as we are explaining to you that what you are allowing is alignment. What you are allowing is alignment with who you really are. And then we've gone on to explain that step 1 has caused you to create all kinds of things that you have the ability to allow that you might not be allowing. And that the thing that keeps you from allowing what you really want is accepting what is. There it is. Accepting it because railing against it doesn't feel good. But there's this other step that we are talking about that's an evolution of the understanding of all of this, isn't it? No one wants to be blind. And the idea of it is causing constant desires to be able to see, to go into the vortex. But it's so easy to understand how your now experience can more easily dominate your vibration than your vortexual experience, isn't it? Because you're really good at seeing, and you're really good at hearing, and you're really good at tasting. Most people would rather have a negative, full-blown experience of being in the world than they would a positive experience of closing their eyes and meditating. Do you agree with that? It's true of most. And you know why that is? It's because out here in the world there's momentum, and back here in meditation there's not much. And most people haven't figured out how to allow the momentum, the positive only momentum, to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. So they think momentum is what matters most, so they'll take any momentum, which is negative momentum, over not much momentum, but it's just because they didn't play it out long enough. Most people go to meditate, they can't really quiet their mind, they try to quiet their mind, and then they think about things, and then they think about things that they've been worried about, and then they get up, and after a little while, after a week or 2 or 3 or 4, they say, this is a waste of time. Because they haven't allowed themselves the benefit of really quieting their mind and feeling the success of that first reception of that first thought as that first vibration turns to a thought. If you will meditate, it might take a week or 2, just long enough to have that first thought explode into your mind where you can acknowledge that you're in the receiving mode. Then you're off and running, you see. Another thing that is important to acknowledge is that in the same way that you attracted, allowed, maybe even at some level intended, because that was a sincere question within you. And you're a teacher to the core of your being. And there are so many who want to know what you know, that you attracted an experience in order to give you knowing. And we are certain that is the case with this friend that you're talking about. But we just want you to know that you can release resistance before you croak. Everyone will. When you make your transition into non-physical, you will release all resistance, and you'll be the full receiver of all that you desire. But it's not manifested in the way that it is when you're here in this physical body. And it could be. In other words, it could be. So if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would not accept anything less than living happily ever after. But we would be willing to figure out how it is that it works. And we would be willing to acknowledge that there's a constant state of evolution and that the desire will never stop evolving. And so step 1 is a necessary part of that. So we would embrace step 1 as something that's really important and really good. But feel the difference between having a step 1 moment and knowing it's going to turn out good, and having a step 1 moment and not knowing that. And when you have oriented yourself to your vortex, then and only then would you find that security, so that when you're walking into an unknown territory, when you're walking through an unknown neighborhood, when you're having a new experience that's new to you, instead of feeling trepidation, you will have the knowledge that it's going to be all right. You just don't know how or when or who or where. And that's why it has the potential of surprising and delighting you. Because you're moving forward with enthusiasm and security and knowledge of your well-being, you see. Really good conversation. Something more?
No. Thank you very much.
Really good. Yeah.
Hi. It feels like I'm on The Price is Right, and I was the first person to get selected. I'm definitely going to try to go on the show after this.
It's called The Vibration is Right.
I love it. I feel so good to be here. One of the things that I love to do is to bask in appreciation. I love to make lists of positive aspects.
Well, doing that is one of the most productive things you can do. But if you are doing it to compensate for some resistance, then sometimes it backfires, because when you try to improve something that's in a not so good place, instead of moving the energy in the direction of your desire, sometimes you dig in without meaning to. So it's important to know how good feeling you are. If you're already tuned in, tapped in, turned on, so you feel pretty good, then do that and increase the momentum of it. That's a wonderful thing to do. Yes.
Another thing that I love is I love my mom. And I find myself making lists of positive aspects sometimes. Like, I love her. I appreciate her kindness, her love, her warmth. Her eyes light up when she sees me. I appreciate the fact that she's so religious. And I appreciate her desire for me to marry a woman, for example.
You do know that law of attraction works around sarcasm.
Okay. So I found myself in a really funny position not too long ago. She asked me flat out if I was seeing someone. And I proudly wanted to say yes, but then I said no, and then after I thought, why did I say no? And I thought, well, maybe I wanted her, maybe, I don't know if it was my inner being wanting her maybe to be angry instead of sad, in a way, that I'd rather her be angry that maybe she suspected that I was, and that I didn't confirm it, instead of being sad about the truth.
This is getting a little complicated, isn't it? Would you like us to tell you what we think? We think it's a wonderful thing that you love your mother. And we think it is natural that you may, even today, want to continue to please her. But there are some things that you just can't please her at the same time that you're pleasing yourself. In fact, a lot of those kinds of things. Most people who visit with us for a while come to a place of realizing that they have been utilizing someone close to them, like their mother, as a sort of not very good replacement for their own guidance system or for their own relationship with their own inner being. And so we know most everybody would like to have it both ways. You'd like to be able to tune into the wholeness of who you are and feel the satisfaction of that, and you'd like someone who is really meaningful to you, like your mother, to come right along with it. But sometimes it's just not going to be that way, and you have to make a choice. You have to decide what matters more to you: to be true to who you really are, which means a vibrational match to your inner being and what your inner being knows, or to satisfy the desires and intentions that others hold for you.
For the longest time, I guess now I accept the fact that she has her way of thinking, she's religious, and I love her, and I know that brings her happiness.
Well, before you go too much further, because all of that is true, but we want to show you an easier way in this subject, because when you try to think your way through it, there are so many opinions and so many thoughts about it, and you just scramble your brain, you scramble your thoughts, more important, you scramble your energy. And when you do that, you lose the clarity and power of your own point of attraction. When you take time, and by the end of this day you will have heard us say this many times, when you realize that you've already done step one, you've already asked for what you want, it's already in your vortex. You want your mother to accept you as you know yourself to be. You want her to be joyful about the things that you are joyful about. You've had a lot of thoughts about this, and you've created a very powerful vibrational reality that is all about that, and your inner being is lined up with that and offering a vibration about that. So then as you sit to meditate and you manage to quiet your mind about that subject and all other subjects, what happens is, as the resistance fades away, the vibration of who you really are becomes dominant. And along with that, clicking into who you really are, comes a confidence and a clarity and a love and a certainty and a sureness that really cannot be denied. One of the things that so many people do with their parents, you've been doing it for such a long time. You've been wanting your parents to be the vortex through which all of your good comes, through which your resources come and your compliments and your approval and all of that. And so then you put your parents in a very awkward position, because it's not their job to line up with everything you want. It's your job to line up with what you want. But this is certain: there is no one who cares more than your mother about your happiness. And when you go to a mother or to a mentor, to someone that you care about, and you express yourself as insecure, as unhappy, then you literally teach them vibrations about you that then later you want them to forget all about. And it's hard for them to forget the relationships that you have developed together. So she's not going to unlearn the way she has come to feel about you, and she's not going to come to unlearn the way you have taught her to feel about you, and you're not going to unlearn the way that you feel about her. But you could tune to something else that is stronger, and you could practice that through meditation every day for about 30 days, and you could come into the fullness of who you are so that you're radiating clarity, and then you would have perhaps an opportunity for her to understand who you are and where you're coming from and what you want. Yes? Enough?
I just have one more thing. You see, she's really stubborn.
But you see, here's the thing that we really want you to hear. What we were describing earlier about your opinion and her opinion. You're both stubborn. And when you get two stubborn people banging around together, nothing ever goes anywhere. You're still saying, I love her, but that can't even last. I love my mother so much, she's stubborn though. I love my mother so much, she's stubborn. I love my stubborn mother so much, my stubborn mother. I have a stubborn mother. My mother is stubborn. I have a stubborn mother who I used to love. That's really how it goes. But when you tune to the love that is you every day, then the first thing you do is love your mother. In other words, you are radiating love and clarity. You're not choosing based upon her agreement with you about one thing or another, you see. We're going to offer a phrase that we want you to remember forever and ever and ever. You can't get there from here. And that sounds not like the optimistic Abraham that you've come to know and love. But what we mean by that is you cannot hold a vibrational stance and get to places that you want to be. You have to tune to the frequency of who you are and of what you desire. And you have to eliminate the resistance that's within you by focusing purely upon what you want. And when that clarity is pulsing through you, your power of influence is mighty. And until then, you're just going to duke it out in the physical realm, and decades can go by and there can be no real improvement. Helpful?
Yes.
Enough?
Yes.
Really
Thank you.
good.